energy factor into nearly every major decision an employer makes. In the post-recession economy, the two will be inextricably linked, and for Vermont to compete globally, we must have the best of both working seamlessly together. Whether it's information technology, manufacturing, farming, education, or healthcare, a strong communications and energy infrastructure is critical to the Vermont economy. Fortunately, we start this new decade from a solid foundation built through years of hard work, planning, and foresight. In 2007, the legislature joined me in setting forth a very ambitious goal: universal broadband and wireless in every part of the state this year. The E-State Initiative was and remains one of the most forward-looking statewide telecommunications plans in the nation. Although the recession has slowed our efforts, we've made tremendous progress. Thanks to our head start, Vermont has been well positioned to take advantage of the opportunities provided by the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, or ARRA. While other states asked for planning funds, Vermont sought and won major federal grants for telecommunications technology implementation. With nearly $70 million in ARRA funds, plus an additional $120 million in investment by Vermont utilities, we're building a high-capacity fiber optic backbone that enables next-generation innovations to take root and grow in our state. Part of this backbone is our smart grid, a breakthrough in energy conservation. The smart grid will help families save on electric bills by knowing the best time to use appliances. Businesses will cut costs by choosing to operate equipment when it is least expensive. And Vermonters will be prepared to take advantage of new technologies, such as electric cars, to cut emissions and clean our air. From this high-speed backbone, we're working with telecommunications providers to build out our middle-mile connection points into schools and libraries across the state. The final stop for Vermont's high-speed network is in every home and workplace. This is where it gets complicated for a state that is comprised of steep, rugged hills and winding dirt roads. There are some places you can't get to from here, and frankly, I don't want to change that. But for families and businesses that want to get connected and are still not served by high-speed internet, I propose a backroads broadband program to spur local providers to build last-mile connections. For 2 years, the Vermont Telecommunications Authority will defray the cost of a high-speed internet connection into the home or office. For the providers, this means a guaranteed return for a limited window and a great incentive to run the final stretch of line to every customer. This is not an ongoing program for either customers or providers. It's a use-it-or-lose-it deal that will speed us toward meeting our E-State goal of universal coverage. For employers and employees alike, the attraction of a state wired from stem to stern is powerful. Businesses of all sizes can be connected in every hour to clients around the world. Small footprint firms can be close to our lakes and mountains without sacrificing sales. Telecommuting options multiply for everyone. Within state government, the investments in a wired future will be pivotal in our efforts to deliver high-quality services more affordably. With each new connection, the network's potential grows for applications both public and private, helping Vermonters succeed from the office to the classroom. The ever-growing burden of property taxes threatens the financial security of Vermonters and the potential of our employers. Getting a handle on this cost is essential to our economic future. In the last decade, total net education property taxes have nearly doubled, from just over $450 million to $900 million today. And that $900 million accounts for only 2/3 of what Vermonters actually pay to support education. Almost half of income taxes, 1/3 of sales taxes, and 1/3 of the purchase and use tax go to pay the total bill. Containing costs is the only way to halt the climb of property tax bills and make our state affordable for families and businesses. That's why I continue to fight so hard to put the brakes on spending and to reform our broken funding system. In recent years, I called for caps on education spending, but we took only a small step in containing costs with the two-vote approach. Last year, I renewed my call to cap school spending as part of another push for comprehensive reform. Well, in other years past, ideas have been offered, groups have met, studies have been studied again, but little has been done. Despite the recession and near zero inflation, school budgets are still projected to rise by 2% next year. Property taxes are slated to increase by $59 million. And for the first time since the enactment of Act 60, the statewide property tax rate will increase by 2 cents to cover ever-increasing costs, with an additional 20-cent jump over the following 2 years, pushing residential rates 26% higher than today. These facts paint a disturbing picture of a future burdened by increasing property taxes, suppressing job creation and home ownership. Meaningful reform must address each of the 3 core drivers that push property taxes higher year after year. Foremost, we need to cut costs and bring spending in line with reasonable standards. We must modernize our antiquated education bureaucracy, and we must be prepared to disentangle the twisted funding system born with Act 60. We can and must change, reform, and improve education funding, and indeed education in Vermont. School staffing levels have increased by 23%, while our student population has decreased by 11.5%. The number of teachers' aides has gone up 43%. The number of support staff has gone up 48%. For every 4 fewer students, a new teacher, teacher's aide, or staff person was hired. There are 11 students for every teacher, the lowest ratio in the country, and a staggering 5 students for every adult in our schools. With personnel costs accounting for 80% of total school spending, it's no wonder that our K-12 system is among the most expensive in the nation at $14,000 per student per year. In most organizations, if your customer base is shrinking, you make adjustments to stay within budget, and at a minimum, you stop hiring. Although some will be quick to scold that education is not a business, neither is Medicaid or public safety or environmental conservation. But in each of these areas, if we ignore the basics of prudent financial management, we imperil the services that we provide. Until labor costs in our schools are brought under control, taxpayers can expect our bills to grow every year, and the onus of the property tax will continue to threaten a healthy economy. I appreciate the difficulty of reducing personnel costs. Over the past 2 years, the state has taken necessary, sometimes painful steps to find labor savings through vacancies, retirements, and when all else failed, layoffs. I am grateful to state employees who last week ratified by a wide margin a new contract that is in the public's interest. 3% wage reduction frozen for 2 years is a meaningful and important contribution to the greater challenges that face Vermont. To date, we have not seen similar agreements between teachers and school boards. In fact, teachers' salaries have continued to rise during this recession. If teachers' contracts mirrored the recent state employee contract, there would be no need to raise property taxes in 2011. Current staffing and compensation levels cannot be maintained as the student count continues to decline. If we simply move from our current 11-to-1 student-teacher ratio to 13-to-1, we would still have one of the lowest ratios in the country, while saving as much as $100 million. If we want to make education costs sustainable, we must return balance to our classrooms. I propose that over 4 years, we bring our statewide student-teacher ratio to affordable levels. By leveraging the retirement bubble among teachers, we'd be able to achieve significant savings through attrition alone, without any disruption in the classroom. This is not an early retirement incentive, but a mechanism to fill only 1 vacancy for every 2 retirements. Based on our experience in state government, this approach is sensible, achievable, and much